Alright, so today we have our dear friend, Nee, for an interview, and I'm very happy to have her today. And I think that we can create we can bring a lot of informational content out of this. So, yeah, Nee, thank you for coming here. And could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is Nee. I am currently a senior at Rutgers University, and I am majoring in biology with a minor in psychology. Recently I just got accepted to an optometry graduate school, and I've been working my whole entire undergraduate studies towards that goal.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say congratulations on getting into that
Thank
school.
you.
Did you have graduate school plan in mind before you started college year?
I'm one of those people that plan out their entire lives, so
Okay.
I definitely knew I wanted to go to graduate school, mostly because I love to learn. I value being in school, and graduate school gave me the opportunity to keep learning even after my undergraduate career. So I always had an interest in graduate school. Before I went to Rutgers, I wasn't sure about optometry. But when I came here and I went to a lot of different clubs, like different pre-health clubs, I resonated really well with the people in the community of optometry. So when I started learning more about it, that helped to solidify my choice.
Oh yeah, that's nice. I think that when I first heard the word optometry, I honestly didn't know what it means. So for those people who may not know much about optometry, could you briefly introduce to the audience what the optometry is?
So optometry is the study of the eyes and also about vision. A lot of people, when they hear optometry, it's more associated with eye doctors. So when you go to your eye doctor, you get glasses, contacts if you need it, but there's a big range now for optometry. So there's things like ocular diseases that optometrists can help diagnose and somewhat manage as well. If you or a family member have ever heard of glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration, those are degenerative diseases that optometrists can help diagnose and view over as well as helping children with their vision health. So some children have issues with convergence, that means their eyes don't work together, like lazy eye, those things. So optometrists now do a wider scope. So I like optometry because at first, like everybody, you think contacts and glasses, but it's so much more than that. So seeing new things and seeing more things is what really paved my way for why I chose that career. It made me very curious.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now you got into the grad school for optometry, right? How long is the program, and what are some of the things that you have to go through during the program, other than just studying?
So the program is typically about 4 years. Some schools, if you do a dual program with undergraduate and graduate, you can do like a 3+4. So you would get out in 7 years instead of the traditional 8. And some schools have a traditional or an accelerated program. The accelerated is only 3 years. So you would actually go to school during the summers to catch up and make up that work.
Wow.
But a lot of your first and second year is didactic courses, which means you learn, kind of like undergraduate, you learn about physics a lot, chemistry and biology. But then most of your classes, starting from your second to your fourth, is clinical. So what clinical is you're doing hands-on work with patients. You get to actually see patients, you work with the machines, and it's a good experience because you're building connections, but you're also building your professional skills as well. So most of it is that. And then afterwards, if you choose to, you can do a specialty or residency. That's after your 4 years. After your 4 years of study, then you would take your board exam. So when you take your board exam and you pass, you get licensed, and then you can become a doctor and work.
Oh wow. Well, that's a long process.
It is a long process, yeah.
When did you start preparing for your graduate application, and was there any tips and strategies that you may be able to give for those who are preparing?
I recommend starting maybe between your sophomore and junior year, or your sophomore if you can. Some students are really stressed out, or they really like to explore, and they start shadowing freshman year. So that's great as well, but there's not really a deadline. For optometry, they are a little bit more understanding. A lot of students take gap years now as well, so it gives you some leeway into when you want to start and complete your prerequisites. But you should complete most, if not all, of your prerequisites before you apply. So for me personally, I started working my junior year as an optometric technician at an eye doctor's office.
Wow.
It is a little hard to find shadowing or jobs, especially during COVID. I had issues with that.
Right.
But if you just ask nicely, or even if you ask your own eye doctor to get you started with, any experience is fine as well. So working is one of the more popular ways of getting experience. And then shadowing, schools sometimes have a minimum amount, but it's usually not a lot. So schools want to see how well you know the field and your passion for it. That's actually their number one criteria that they look for. So grades do matter, your test scores matter as well, but they really want to see that you're interested in becoming an eye doctor. So in terms of like logistics, you have to take a test, the OAT, before you start your application. Usually it's recommended to take it the summer before the application cycle. Every application cycle opens from July and then it ends next year in March. So you usually take the OAT from May to August. You can take it later if you want. You could also retake it. I think you have to wait like 2 months. So you want a good OAT score. You want to work hard in your classes. They look at your GPA, but it's understandable. They look for improvement actually. So if you did not well in your freshman year, there's still hope. Like I know people who did like not the greatest freshman year. They really like to party, but like
Parties matter.
Yeah. But by the time you get to your junior year and you're really thinking about applying, try to get better or try to boost your GPA up. So that helps. But if you have a lot of experience, I know someone who worked 4 years at an office.
Wow.
Yeah, and it really helped him to get into his dream school. So there's currently 24, 25 accredited optometry schools, so not a lot to choose from, but it's not as competitive as you might think, but you still would want to try your best if you're interested in optometry. And so just make sure you have your OAT scores, your grades, shadowing experiences, and also you typically need 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. That is usually what's required as well. One from a doctor, a science professor, and if they ask for a third one, it's usually just anyone, like a professional mentor or a supervisor, something like that.
Oh.
So yeah, long process.
Yeah, it's a long process. By just hearing what you have to go through during your undergraduate years, seems like there's a lot of emphasis on experience and how passionate you are, and obviously it's important to do well in school, but the fact that you're able to show the passion to be in optometry field, I think that was pretty cool to see that schools actually care about that, and that's one of the important part about getting into the optometry field. What are some strategies and tips that you can give for students who are looking for internship or work experience before they apply to the grad school?
The easiest way to get a job or shadowing is actually knowing people. So the easiest way to do that is to join clubs. There are other pre-health clubs, but if you're interested in optometry specifically, there is a pre-optometry club at Rutgers. Some schools offer it, but they might not. In general, if you go to any pre-health club, they do help you. That's like the whole entire point of the club. They help you with like your applications, making sure you're on track. And also some people, if you network, they'll offer you a job sometimes. Like doing it on your own, if you apply or cold call places, like email them, call out of offices, or call your own doctor or optometrist, it's easy to get a job through there if you try trial and error. But at the same time, it might be a little difficult that way. But if you aim for around May, April, or like August, September, they're usually hiring because students graduate, they always need the extra help. So definitely looking out for that. Like Rutgers has this thing called the Health Professions Office, and they send out regular emails as well with job postings. So if you really just go out of your way to look for those things, like join a lot of clubs, bulletin boards, all that kind of stuff, or like even Facebook groups, it might be a little easier. And of course, you could always go on LinkedIn or Handshake, those kind of places, or Indeed, to search for jobs the traditional way. That's another way to find a job.
So after your 4 year of being in grad school, taking all the courses, what are some routes that you can take after the completion of the program?
So after your 4 years, typically you would take the board exam, and then if you pass, you get licensed. So most people who do like become a doctor after the license, they work in different practices. So there's a lot of different kinds of practices you can work in. You can work in a private setting. So this is usually like, your neighborhood eye doctor. You can work in a corporate setting, so lens crafters, vision works, that kind of places. Or you can work in hospital settings sometimes alongside an ophthalmologist. You are interested in a lot of like the ocular disease. And if you don't want to work, you can go back to school. You can do a residency, so you kind of learn in a clinical setting. It's still kind of working in that sense, but you're learning as well. Some students also do a PhD, so they will do research, and then if they want to, they don't want to become an eye doctor who sees patients, but they can be a doctor who teaches instead. So there are a lot of options that you can do after optometry school.
Wow, that's really cool. Let's get into some specialties that you can take after, is it after completing the eye doctor program?
So for most of the schooling during optometry school, you can learn about specialties while you're there.
Okay.
So a lot of schools do this thing where you kind of dip your feet in many different ones. When they put you in a clinical setting, you work with a variety of patients. So the specialties that are most common are pediatrics, specialty contact lenses, ocular diseases and degenerative diseases. You can do vision therapy as well. And I believe those are the most common ones. There are different ones depending on school. So I think some schools have neuroscience as well. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. If you want to further do that, some schools do this thing afterwards. If you do your residency, you can choose the specialty that you specialize in. But when you do rotations, which is basically in your last year at most schools, what you do is you go on these like externship or external sites all around the country. So you can go as far as California if you're from New Jersey. Some places even offer you global places. You can go to China as well. You serve those communities for about a semester, and most places that you do those externships, they have specialties. So if you're going to a VA hospital, like a Veterans Affairs hospital, and you're going to Connecticut, then you get to see that aspect versus someone who's going to pediatrics, maybe somewhere nearby.
What are some strategies and tips that you would give to any high school students who are coming for college?
Definitely, it's a challenge when you're a high school student and you're going to college. I think a lot of people start off struggling a little bit with time management. That happens when you go to high school to college, undergraduate to graduate school. So there's always some sort of transition that you need to get used to, and to be honest, it only gets harder as you go up as well. So definitely focusing on how to balance your life. That doesn't just mean academics. It doesn't just mean using a planner to plan out your homework. It actually means balancing social life, feeding yourself, that's something that's overlooked, balancing any jobs you have, especially when you get internships and shadowing, anything like that. It's hard to fit that into your schedule when you're already doing maybe like 16 credits of classes. So that can be a challenge for most people. But I think if you take a step to reflect about what's working for you, what's not working for you, that's healthy. Knowing your limits, but also, having a little drive and passion for what you want. So a thing I like to tell people in general is you have to be your own advocate. If you just sit there and do nothing, no one's going to hand it to you, honestly. It's hard to find a job. It's very competitive. It's hard to find shadowing. No one's here to hold your hand, but also you're competing with about like 10,000 other kids. There's so many people who go into pre-health, pre-med, and it can be really intimidating. But if you just put the tiny bit of effort now, it helps. Like, just dip your feet in there, and gradually you'll find that you get more confident. And that's really helpful. It helps you grow not only as a student, in your professional way, but also just as a person. Know when to stand up for yourself.
I really like the point where you mentioned about how there are so many competitors out, like other than you, and it's really important to notice that it's not just you who are looking for a job. There are also thousands of people who are looking for a job. So if you're not as competitive as others, you're not going to get the job. Put your feet on the water so that even though you think that maybe I really don't know where to start, as long as you put your feet on the water, you'll gradually find a way right? If you're not even putting your feet on the water, what are you gonna do, right? Where can you even start, and how are you gonna move on to the next level, right? So I think those were pretty important to mention about. And yeah, hopefully a lot of people will find this information very useful.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people could benefit from it. So yeah, we'll be back next time. And thank you so much for having an interview.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.